Well, hello, I am Paul Coates. I'm the director of Lebanon's Recreation, Arts, and Parks Department.
And I'm Rod Finley, city engineer.
We are here to chat about the extension of the Mascoma River Greenway, which currently exists from the eastern side, from where the Northern Rail Trail terminates at Spencer Street. The Greenway moves through the downtown parking area behind City Hall and goes through the Lebanon Tunnel, which is under the Lebanon Mall. And that's really the true beginning of what we refer to as the Mascoma River Greenway at that point. The trail moves west from that point about almost 2.5 miles, and it currently terminates at Glen Road, outlined in this map that was created back when the Mascoma River Greenway was first being presented as a project back in around 2015. So again, looking at this map, this is the Northern Rail Trail that's outlined in green with the Spencer Street terminus near what's labeled as Eldridge Park. This black zone here is the downtown area with the downtown tunnel. And those of you who have been using the Greenway currently have enjoyed this paved path. It's fully separated from any kind of road and road crossings. Where it does encounter roads, there are actually bridges that help us get over places like Slayton Hill and I-89, and then a couple of bridges that cross over the Mascoma River. And then as we go underneath the Terry Dudley Bridge at Route 4 in the area of Price Chopper and Miracle Mile, we get to Glen Road, and that's the current terminus where a couple of parking spots exist, but we were forced to get off of the railroad tracks at that point in time. And it feels like, in a sense, a trail that doesn't quite go where the community wants it to go, and we would agree. Ultimately, the design and the idea has been for the Mascoma River Greenway to reach all the way into West Lebanon via a couple of entry points there. One in the area of Riverside Community Park and 12A, and the other going through what was meant to be a future development called Twin State Iron Horse Park. And once that development was going to come into fruition, the Greenway path would go through that development and reach Seminary Hill Road and Main Street area of West Lebanon. Unfortunately, the Twin State Iron Horse Park has not yet happened. So that just means that we've been stuck at Glen Road for some time. The state, for up until very recently, did not want us to continue along the railroad tracks in the area past where we currently get off. But thanks to the hard work of the city and some folks at the state who are starting to see the light, so to speak, more and more about future use of the railroad, and in particular this area, this short stretch that goes from where we let off over towards where the Stone Arch underpass is at Glen Road, that they're now viewing that section of tracks as unlikely to be used for actual rail use, and are giving us the permission to convert that to rail trail. I'm going to show you also then what this expansion project looks like in a map form. Again, in this map, it's the existing MRG. And this area that's labeled bridge right now with this small purple area, this is in the area right behind the Lebanon Ford dealership. And again, we come over underneath the Terry Dudley Bridge, and we then with the existing greenway actually comes off of the railroad tracks and follows a cinder path that's an access road, which helps us reach where Glen Road is. This project is going to allow us to stay on the railroad tracks. We'll convert that to trail. So it'll be a straight shot now coming out from underneath the Terry Dudley Bridge. And the whole purple line on this map represents the future expansion of the Greenway. Once we get over to the river here, there are 2 bridges that need to be rehabilitated to serve bike pedestrian facility. And then in this area, as soon as we get off that second bridge and before we reach the Stone Arch underpass of Glen Road, we have to get off of the tracks and work our way down an earthen ramp to descend down into the Riverside Community Park, which some of you may know as the Horseshoe Pit Park. There's a large pavilion there, and the Rusty Bearing Skate Park all exist there at Riverside. And there is currently an existing trail that does drop down and go down by the water. That trail will be upgraded to Greenway standards and will continue to follow the river, paralleling Glen Road all the way down to the Powerhouse Mall. And once we reach the Powerhouse Mall, which is obviously a private entity, we have some discussions happening with the owners of the Powerhouse Mall where they are interested in working with us to keep the Greenway through their property going alongside the river behind the Powerhouse Mall and coming out up to 12A, just outside of the Louie Louie's restaurant area. So a lot going on with this expansion project, but what it effectively does is linking our downtown Lebanon with at least the commercial district of West Lebanon so that people have destinations on both ends of the Mascoma River Greenway and ability to park, particularly at this western end, in a more robust parking area that is offered by the Powerhouse Mall area, certainly compared to the current parking, which is at Glen Road, which only holds a couple of cars. So we are super excited about this whole project. Our current status with it is we are filing for the abandonment of the railroad tracks with the Surface Transportation Board. That's a federal agency that oversees facilities like the railroad. And the state is working with us on that. They're participating in that process with us. That official paperwork has taken roughly 15 months at this point in the game to navigate that process, but we will be filing that paperwork within the next week. So by middle of April or beginning of April. And once the Surface Transportation Board approves that abandonment request, then we will be able to enter into what's called a rail trail agreement with the state for us to be able to start doing things like removing vegetation and getting actual access onto that railroad corridor. Similar to the Greenway, the state will continue ownership of the rail corridor. The city will have this rail trail agreement that allows us the permission to convert it into a trail, to maintain it, and to allow the public to use it as well. So once we have that agreement with the state, we'll be able to do things like coordinate volunteer days to go out and remove the trees that are currently growing within the tracks and dismantling things like railroad spikes so that the process of hiring a contractor to come in and actually take that rail out of here goes a bit easier, quicker, and with less expense. Speaking of expense, this entire project is estimated to cost in the range of $2.4 million. And that includes not only the rehabilitation of the two bridges along this new section and the earthen ramp to help us get down to Riverside Community Park, the paving of the trail throughout, but also this connection from the Lebanon Ford area down to the existing Greenway. There's already a wooden bridge that traverses over the Greenway, and we'd like to formalize that access point, but also where several people who are sort of commuting or trying to get down to the Greenway are already using that, but we would like to formalize that access point. There will not be parking at Lebanon Ford, but there is parking just to the east of that at Price Chopper that allows you to get down there too. So all of that included, that is estimated to be a $2.4 million project. Fortunately, the city was successful back in 2023 with our application to the federal CMAQ grant, that's Congestion Mitigation Air Quality grant. And that award will amount to about $1.9 million. It's basically an 80-20 grant. So 80% of the funding will come from the federal government through the CMAQ program and 20% from local funding, which is the city, which amounts to about $400,000. The city already has about $100,000 of that in hand from the original Mascoma River Greenway capital campaign that took place back in 2016, 2017. when we were building the original Greenway. So we still have some of those funds available to us just for this purpose when we were anticipating this expansion type project.